This is Tim, and we're about to jump into a breakdown of me running discovery on a sobriety coaching offer. The prospect that I'm selling to was quite difficult. There were a lot of challenges in terms of his mindset, in terms of taking responsibility. So if you're a closer, you're going to learn a lot from this because you'll understand how framing works. You understand how strategies around leadership, how strategies around compliance work. There's a lot of psychology that goes into this. This was taken from a role play that I ran in our advanced training sessions in protocols, where we break down and train a lot on framing, a lot on creating responsibility, a lot on dialogue. And this is a very, very intense role play. And the discovery was actually longer than I normally do. I usually run my discovery for around 25 minutes, but because there were a lot of frames that needed to be addressed and handled, we ran this one for around 35 plus minutes. It's 36 minutes exactly of a proper discovery, because there was a lot more due diligence that I needed to do. So this is a great one to learn from. If you're a closer who's trying to push for months of 15, 20, 25K, this is going to help you level up your sales games and your sales game. And a lot of the strategies that I use here in terms of how I create certain frames, how I create certain responsibility and commitment and compliance are things that you can literally use and plug into your calls right now. So look at it, use it, learn from it, apply it to your own calls. There's a lot of value. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go make some money. So before I play the video, I want you to understand this very important concept about when you are selling. You need to understand the nature of the sales that you are doing. Meaning, in this call, I know that it's very important that I get this prospect to take responsibility during discovery. I know that he has to take responsibility over his own current state, over his own problems, over his own future, or of his own failure of achieving that future. Because if I don't get him to take responsibility, then later on in the call, getting him to buy is going to be like pulling teeth. It's going to be difficult. And I want my calls to be easy. I want easy purchases. I want people just rolling over saying, hey, yes, I'm going to do it. This doesn't mean I'm not prepared to handle objections if they come up, which is why you need to learn objection handling and be very, very good at it, as our people are. But at the same time, what I want to do is manage as much of the call as I can and create the right framing, create the right kind of dialogue to make sure that we're having the conversation that's going to lead to this person taking responsibility. Watch how I do that through this call. It's going to be very important. I'm going to point out those moments to you. Let's go ahead and dive in. On the call, three things that I want to figure out what you got going on in terms of your journey, just to overcoming limitations around alcohol and all that. See what you've done on your own to try to get past it and see how we can help. I'll break down to you what we do and what our process looks like. And then if you feel like we can help, if there's alignment, then I'll break down the investment. You're in sales, so you understand. We'll talk pricing. And then and in this call, he's a prospect who is working in sales. He works in a similar industry as high ticket sales, so he kind of understands the game. So I chose to speak to him as if he understands the game, which is stick with me. What this is going to do is going to break down any frame he may try to create of I'm a sales guy, I know what you're doing, right? Because what I'm telling him is I'm being very explicit, saying you know what I'm doing. I'm already telling him that, so that takes away his ability to say you're trying something, because I'm very overtly saying yes, I'm doing sales. And you'll see later that actually comes up in this call, but I don't let it throw me off. Instead, I push past it and just accept it, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm doing, and that takes the wind out of his sales. There's a principle there we'll go into later, but let's continue. If you feel like it's a good fit, we'll jump in and get started and help you make changes. So take the floor, please. Where are you at with everything? What's the journey been like? Tell me some context about where you're coming from. Alcohol.
Yeah, obviously nobody comes here because it's a fun ride.
That subtitle was off. It said "al culture." Thank you, YouTube subtitles. But I said with the whole alcohol thing. That's were the words I used.
It's been tough, lots of ups and downs. I haven't been to AA. I do kind of obviously understand how they operate and stuff like that. But I guess I've had the drinking issue has been around for, I'd say, probably about 10 years.
And how old are you now?
I'm 48.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was something that kind of came about in kind of middle age, I would say. It's just stress on my job and things like that kind of led me to that. And it's gotten to the point where it's affecting my family. That's actually kind of the reason I'm here. My wife saw, I guess, your stuff on Instagram and Facebook, and she was like, hey, I think this might be something that might be good for you. So that's kind of why I'm here, to see what you guys could do.
Okay, interesting. So already what I know, and if you're good in sales, you should know this. If you're learning sales, listen up. But one thing that I already hear is he's avoiding responsibility by saying my wife thought that this was interesting. He's not directly avoiding it aggressively to the point where I need to reframe it immediately. So I'm not going to jump on it. I'm not going to attack it right now. But I am putting in the back of my mind, that's a little bit off. He shouldn't need to do that. He shouldn't need to say, my wife saw this, thus is why I'm here. I don't like the language. I'm not going to jump on it immediately, but I'm parking it in the back of my head, and I'm like, I want you to take responsibility for this instead of outsourcing the responsibility of the wanting to make change, outsourcing that to your wife, because that's not helpful to anybody, okay? what's the goal for you in terms of just letting go of all this, moving past this mountain right now? Where do you want to be with everything? Is it you're trying to never touch a drop again? You're trying to scale it back down to where you're consuming 10% of what you are now, a glass of wine once a month, or where are you trying to be with it?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like one of the reasons why I never did go to AA is because
What I'm doing is I'm associating a future goal. So the way that I teach sales, the way that I sell is what I call holy grail focus. So instead of me focusing on everything that's been going wrong in the past and we start with that, we start with where do you want to be, and we anchor all of our questions, we anchor the motion and the movement of our call towards where this person wants to be in their future, where they would like to get to.
I wasn't sure that I wanted to even try to go totally dry. I've always felt like I think it would be more my style to kind of just scale back and just be able to be a social drinker and not go overboard, if you know what I mean. Kind of be able to go out to dinner and have 2 or 3 drinks with some friends and my wife, and just just leave it at that. But I don't really know, to be honest with you. It's because part of me also feels like, well, if I try to do that, like, am I actually really even committing to change? You know what I mean? So I don't have an answer for you right now. That's kind of
So it's interesting because he gives an answer. Actually, he says I want to scale back to an extent. He says that, but then he wipes the answer off the table by saying I don't know and I don't know how to answer you. So what I need him to do is verbalize, because what's important is what the prospect says. What the prospect says and their own view of their problem state is extremely important. It's more important even than the questions you ask. The questions you ask are important, very important, because they get certain answers. But it's more important for the prospect to verbalize certain ideas after you ask those questions than the prospect to just kind of have an idea in their own mind and never say it, or for you to ask a question that's maybe good but you get a crappy answer. I need the prospect to verbalize answers because that creates dialogue, and dialogue is how we sell. We create dialogue around certain ideas, around certain frames, around certain principles or belief systems, and that's what allows us to move a sale forward. Okay.
one of the things
Nor do you necessarily need to. You don't necessarily need to have an exact answer, because part of that. So I cut him off there because he said, I don't know if I have an answer for you, and I didn't want to leave that open.
Like, am I actually really even committing to change? You know what I mean? So I don't have an answer for you right now. And that's kind of one of the things I'm
Nor do you necessarily need to. You don't necessarily need to have an exact answer, because part of what we do here at X is like figuring that out with you. Right? Like figuring out, hey, where does Don need to be over the next 3 to 6 months, 8 months, a year, however, longer than that, right? Where you're in the best position for yourself and your family. What I do want to know, what we do need to know though, is where we're setting an intention for. That's important. So maybe we don't need to. So do you see how I say it's okay, you don't need to have an exact answer, but I re-ask the question in a slightly different format here so that I can ultimately get an answer? Because again, in sales, if you're getting your questions not answered, you're lowering the standard and the expectation that the person you are selling to has for how they need to respond and how they need to engage you on a call. And we cannot do that. That's a non-negotiable. To necessarily say this number of drinks or complete zero, as in we have to start with that, but we do want intention.
Yeah.
So just in terms of the intention of the heart, at least, where is that moving towards?
I mean, the intention of the heart is definitely scale back. And when I scale back, I mean 2 things. One, like right now I'm at a point where I have a drink every day, at least. I mean, I drink every day. So I would like to scale that back. To if I could limit it to a couple of days a week, maybe just a weekend or stuff like that, that would be great. Definitely huge progress. And then also, not every time I drink, but a lot of times I drink to excess. You know what I mean? So, and not, so I'm not. I mean, I guess I'm a kind of a functional alcoholic, in that I can hold a job, I can hold down a job and then perform and stuff like that. But there are a lot of times that when I start.
Quick point about human behavior. So he's saying I'm a functional alcoholic, which means I can hold down a job. He's painting his problematic state, which is addiction. He's painting it in a better light by saying I can hold down a job. It's not so bad. Again, going into my mind, into the library, I might need to address it. I may not, but I know now I need to create a super big problem out of this. I need to create a super big consequence state, as I call it, fear. What do we fear happening? There's desire, which is what we want to happen in the future, and then there's consequence, which is the fear state, what we fear happening in our lives, right? The future problem state. So I know I'm really going to have to create that heavily going forward in this call. If we don't get it, it's going to be harder to sell him, because he's now a little bit of ego's coming up. I can hold down a job. I'm doing okay there. You notice how I don't validate it. I don't nod my head in a way where I'm like, yeah, right, totally. I don't validate it at all, because I don't want to validate that he's doing okay. Because for me to close him, I cannot have him believe he's okay on the call.
You know what I mean? So, and not, so I'm not. I mean, I guess I'm a kind of a functional alcoholic, in that I can hold down a job and then perform and stuff like that. But there are a lot of times that when I start on that drinking, it just, I go all the way till I'm totally totally blackout drunk. So in that way, not really functional, if you know what I mean. So
the intention is to scale back. To scale back significantly. Oh,
Yes.
short term. Yeah, and I would assume long term because I don't. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think at any point you want to be ever drinking daily. Like I don't think anyone needs to do that. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Something I'm curious about. You mentioned the wife brought you here, or she told you, hey, do this. Is this your intention to make this happen for yourself? I'm not talking about us and paying us anything. I'm talking about you actively scaling back, climbing this mountain, slaying the dragon, right, of compulsion. Is that a thing that you would like to do, or is it that your wife is driving you to do? Who's the person driving this?
That's a good question.
Do you see the challenge now? So I'm challenging him because earlier like I said, remember this, he brought up my wife saw the stuff and she was like, you should do this. So now I need to bring it back and challenge him and give him a crossroads is what we call it. Is it her or is it you? Because if he says it's her, I'm going to need to reframe that and get him over to the side of it's me. If he owns and says it's me, well, there we go. We're in a good place. And I'll ask him why. And we have that frame created. But I need him to take responsibility over what happens next.
I mean, there's no doubt that she wants this and that she would want me to be. She definitely 100% would want me to quit. Really, I mean, she already has seen all the damage that this has taken, and part of me definitely does want that. But at the same time, like I said, this has been a 10-year battle, and there've been multiple, attempts to scale back or to quit or to whatever. And it's like, the other part of me is like, is that even possible? It's almost like I can't even bring myself to say that I want it because part of me feels like it can never happen. So I would say she definitely wants it and a part of me definitely wants it.
When you say part of you, Don, what's the part of you that does not want to make it happen? So here's an interesting technique. When you're trying to reframe something or you're trying to get someone to concede logic, which is a term that we use in protocols in our training program, concede logic, what it means is you're trying to get them from their own logical position, which doesn't actually make sense or doesn't help them purchase. So they're coming from some state of avoidance, some state of putting something off. You're trying to get them from their own logical position over to yours. A very powerful tool to use this, to reframe, is going negative. Okay, where I ask negatively framed questions consistently, and I would go negative, negative, negative to get the logic to a basement where it won't make sense anymore, and then we build up with a new perspective on the other side where the prospect actually agrees with that frame and can move forward. So as you'll see, I'm starting to slowly get into that here. I'm going to go negative. Why would it not be you? What's the part of you that does not want it? Because he said both of us. So I need to confront the position he's coming from, go negative on it, like, why not you though? I'm confused. I don't get it. Explain to me. Justify your own position. And if you want to learn more about going negative, watch the videos that I have here on YouTube on framing, on frame control, those whiteboard videos. They explain this in detail, and I give you actually a whiteboard breakdown training here on YouTube on how to do this correctly as a closer and make a bunch of money doing this. But you'll see how I do this here. And I don't fully go into the reframe, but there's certain elements of it that I do use here to get him onto the right side of logic. When you say part of you, Don, what's the part of you that does not want to make it happen? You see, instead of me saying what's the part of you that does want it, I go what's the part of you that does not, because I want him to justify or to try to fight with and wrestle with his own logic, which I believe doesn't make sense. I want him to try to fight it. I want him to prove it to me. Prove to me how you're correct. Right? And I think he's not going to be able to, because I think mine's going to be correct. My side, which is it's your responsibility, and the side of you that wants this is the biggest, most important side of you. That's the side that I want him to take. But in order for me to get him there, I need him to wrestle with that and him to get there on his own, or with me leading him there potentially, but I can't give it to him.
It's not. I don't think there's part of me that doesn't want to make it happen. I feel like there's part of me that almost doesn't believe anymore that it can happen because of all the different attempts I've made in the past to scale back or quit that haven't succeeded. It's just...
Look at the look on my face right now. Look at the look. A lot of sales, guys, is energy and it's tonality. Tonality and energy doesn't come down just to your words and the way you say things only. It's also facial expression. Look at my face right now. Do you see how I have this frown on my face? I'm confused. I don't get it. I'm confused. Tell me what's going on. I don't understand this. I don't understand the position you're coming from. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Explain it to me. Prove it to me. Prove to me how you're right. Right? So now it's going to put him in the position of I have to justify where I'm coming from to the closer. Look at my face, how I'm embodying I'm confused.
It's just like an internal battle. I mean, part of me definitely wants it. The other part, I'm not going to say doesn't want it. It's like the other part is like having to be dragged because they're like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work.
I get it.
If it's even worth another attempt.
It's not easy. It's part of the human condition. It's part of the human experience. I'm with you. Like a lot of our people have been through the exact same thing. The weird part about it is having gone through, let's pretend I don't know how many attempts you've had at actually proper recovery. I don't know how many. Let's say it's been 3. Let's say it's been 5. Let's say it's been more. Do you feel that there are no people who have beaten a cycle of compulsion, a cycle of we'll call it here addiction, and have had multiple attempts and have failed, but then on number 7 or number 8 or number 10 have gotten it right because of what they need to do or who they need to be for their family? Do you feel like there's no one else like that? Another negatively framed question. You see, I'm not saying do you feel like there are people like that, because he'll say, yeah, there are, I'm sure. Instead, I'm going, do you feel like there's no one else like that? That forces him to wrestle with and dialogue more with the idea, because we're going to a negative. A negative, what it does psychologically, going negative, it's this old school sales technique where they would say, would you be against buying this? Right? What you're doing when you're going a negative, it's one further degree of separation away from the answer you want, which means that the prospect to give you the answer they want is more compliant on it, because they're doing more work energetically or mentally to get to that answer that you want. Right? So if I ask this question positively and I'm like, do you think that there's people who have done it well? He'd be like, yeah, I'm sure there are. That's okay, but it's weak. If I say, do you feel like there's no one who hasn't? And his answer is, no, I'm sure that there's definitely people who have. That definite, that people who have, that yes, there are people who are doing it, is a lot stronger, because we started off I guess we call it 1 degree of separation away from the answer that we actually wanted. So he needs to wrestle with it and commit more intellectual labor. It's small. It's very small, guys, but I'm a fucking sales and psychology nerd. So you're watching my shit. That's what you're going to get. So it's small, but it matters, because it's that 1% you do correctly to get them over to the other side. Where you're
I definitely know that there are.
Okay.
It's just, and I think the part
and I asked him, is he a unicorn? That's what I said. Again, YouTube subtitle said unborn.
That really wants to make this change.
Yeah.
Knows that and is hanging on to that hope that
you see how now he gives me a better answer that's stretched out and has more weight? Do you see how it's fuller now because of the negative?
They can do it, then there's hope that I can do it too.
Yep.
It's just it's getting that other part to me to get on board and believe that too.
Yep. So now his logic is somewhat falling apart, and now he's at a basement where he's kind of owning and admitting, yeah, it's just difficult and I'm scared. We can totally live with this. I can live with it. Just don't give me BS on the call, because if he gives me BS on the call, I don't have more leverage to close him. Right? We can't have calls of bullshit. We need to have calls where we're being intellectually honest and real with each other. So now he's being more intellectually honest. He's being more emotionally real with me. He's just saying, yeah, I just don't know if I can, because it's tough. It's scary. Yep. Well, then I 100% know what you mean. That other side of you, the doubt, the fear, the uncertainty, that side of you isn't just going to disappear. It's not going to go away. You know this in sales. So you're a sales guy. So now what I'm doing is I'm giving him a new perspective. So I'm giving him an alternate perspective that he can bite onto and agree with. Once he agrees on it and we have a small dialogue around it, now I've won the frame. And what's the frame I'm trying to win here? I'm trying to get him to take responsibility to say, I can make change and I can put myself in a better position to succeed in my life and take charge of this vice that has held me down. I need him to get there, though. So now I'm giving him a perspective, and I'm going to see if he agrees. So we're talking to each other. I run sales for our company, right? So we're talking the same language here. You get someone, I don't know, you said you're doing helping electricians, right? You get someone who's trying to build a business and they've never done it before. They still, even whether they work with you guys or not, they still have never done it before. So that fear is still going to be there. The key is, can they operate through the other side, which is, even though I am uncertain, I do believe I can take control of my future, and I'm going to operate through that side of myself, and I'm going to interface with the world, take action through that side. Are you in touch with, or willing to be in touch with that other side of yourself? The side that is like, hey, the fear is there, the uncertainty is there, because I have tried and I have failed, which you have, my friend. But can you interact with and use the other side to drive yourself forward to a better future for yourself and your family? I'm not even talking about us. We'll get there. I'm just talking about you and the decisions you have to make for your future.
I mean, like I said, I mean, it's like there's two voices in there, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, so
he doesn't exactly concede it, right? I gave him a perspective. I said, which side are you going to pick? Can you pick the other side? I'm challenging him to pick a side, right? I give him crossroads again. I love using my crossroads. Giving people crossroads, one or two, like two options to pick between, right? But he doesn't bite onto it. He's like, yes, but he has resistance. So I don't remember all this because I watched it a while ago. I'm going to need to do it again. I believe that's what I should do next.
Voice is talking. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? Like I said, there's a part of me that yeah, is 100% on board with you.
Because he's saying there's a part of me that's 100% bored, but I think he's going to say but, and he cancels it out.
Yeah.
With me? Because that's not about me. It's about you. Well, there we go. I challenge him there. He didn't say but, so I challenge him on with me. I don't want you to be on board with me.
Nothing to do with us right now. No, I understand. I'm not talking about your program. I'm saying what you're saying right now. There's a part of me that, like, you're literally echoing what he says. It's just the other part that's like, oh, bro, you tried this before. You tried this a bunch of times before. You know, you've let this person down. You promised this person you were going to stop. You know, my first marriage ended because of my drinking. So it's just like a battle in there.
And I think, and I'm 100%, man. I have 6-7 of these calls a day. I talk to a whole bunch of people. Some we can help, some we can't. And that's kind of the heart of my whole question. So I think we're largely on the same page here. What I'm getting at is, in this space we have together, I don't know how long we have in the calendar, but, like, you know, the next 45 minutes, however long it is. What's really cool, I don't know if you noticed it, but I said I talked to 6-7 of these people. What I'm doing is I'm creating a very slight authority frame to say that I've been through this rodeo before and I understand the avoidance of responsibility. I'm using that strategy, that technique. It's small. I'm not going to elaborate on it. I think most of you probably shouldn't do that, to be honest, because it's dense and difficult to pull off, but it's an interesting one to use. Can you and I create that space together where we're moving towards that freedom? Can you and I have that space here where we're interacting with that guy who is willing? Just on this call for this moment, can we listen to that other voice? That's what I'm talking about. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean,
Good.
yeah.
Good. I know it's not easy. You know, I'm happy about it. That's my job.
I mean,
challenge it.
It's what that part of me wants to do.
Yeah. And we're gonna talk to that side. We're gonna talk to that voice here. I want to go to some more things though. Tell me, Don, about some of the issues right now. You mentioned affecting the family and all that. What's been going on? Why are we trying to get out of this now? What's the trigger behind? Let's make change. So now we've won that frame, and now we're moving on. We're going to go into his problem state. What's been going on? What's holding you back? What are some of the problems you're facing now? What's the limitations? That's what he's going to pay us to solve.
I mean, family. Like I said, I work in sales, so I'm pretty busy during the day. So a lot of times, come the end of the day is when I start my drinking. So and then, like I said, kind of get blitzed, go all the way. So then I'm really no good to the family at night, and my kids have different things, activities that they have, karate class or different plays at school that.
How many did you have?
3.
Okay.
Yeah, so that I can't count how many events I've missed, because of that. So that affects my relationship with them. Obviously, it affects my relationship with my wife because of that.
What's the effect that it's having? How has it been affected just day to day? What are those moments?
Well, just yeah. I mean, fights, man. I mean, it's like they're just so disappointed. So not only am I, it's like not only am I disciplined.
Don, your internet is breaking up. Your internet's going out pretty wild. Can you internet issue? Say that one more time.
Yeah. So I said it's just kind of like a double whammy. I disappoint my kid because I don't show up, and then I disappoint my wife, and then I have to fight with my wife about all the disappointments. So
how's she expressing that disappointment? I know you mentioned fight, but what is going through that like? So what I'm doing right here, he said we're fighting, and it's a good answer he's giving. It's very clear. Nothing to reframe, no challenge here. But what I want is for him to paint me more of a picture around the problem to make it more tangible and make him be able to feel it more. Because if it's just a concept, like my wife is, there's stress, there's discomfort. It's cool, but it's not necessarily like a tangible thing that we can taste and feel in the call. And I want us to be able to feel that. I want us to be able to feel the pain and frustration live. So I want to recreate those emotions. So I'm asking him, tell me more about what the fight is like. Walk me through it to make it alive. How's she expressing that disappointment? I know you mentioned fight, but what is going through that like? Not the feeling, but just day to day, kind of what are those conversations looking like? Is it around the dinner table, breakfast table? What is it?
No, I mean we try not to do it around the kids, but I mean sometimes it happens, but for the most part it's constant. I mean, because at the end of the day she knows what the issue is, and it's kind of like, well, she's like, what the issue is, why don't you just fix it? And and I don't know, I just feel like she doesn't understand. I mean, it's and people say it's an illness. I don't know if it's an illness, and I don't know, but I just know it's not just something.
Let's say it is an illness. Let's say it is an illness. Who knows? But if it is an illness, it definitely has a damn cure. That's why we're here. It has a cure. So what he's doing is, again, he's trying to take away responsibility. This is a consistent theme through the call. He's saying, I don't know, it's not in my hands. Maybe it's some illness that can't be fixed. I'm saying I'm not going to let you get away with it. I refuse to let him get away with that. We're going to cook it right now. If it is an illness. That's a fact. I don't see you nodding your head with me. So I don't know if you agree with that. There's a cure. Do you see how even there I call him out on not agreeing? Because I need the compliance. I need him to agree with me through this entire statement. Because if he does not, then it's falling on deaf ears, and I'm not getting to where I need to go. So it's a constant temp check. It's a constant back and forth, a constant assessment of where his emotional state is relative to what I'm delivering to him on the call, and how I'm challenging him. I'm constantly checking: is he aligned with me? Is he present with what I'm saying?
I mean, it's just I don't know, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I know there have been a bunch of people kick it. I know that. I also know there's tons of people that don't, or even some of the people that kicked it fall back into
some
it.
People, some people die of cancer and relapse, and some people heal their cancer and they move on to go write a book and talk about their journey. In this case, you have a little more control than most people.
And that's the thing. It's like, how much control do I have? I guess that's the battleground.
There's only one way to find out, my friend. There's only one way to find out. Using the right tools, the right resources, the right people in your corner. Again, whether that's us or whether it's not us, but it's using the right people, the right tools in your corner to put you in the best position to heal the illness. If we're calling it an illness here, that's what it is.
And that's the thing.
That's why hospitals are there for the sick people. That's what we're here for.
No, I got it. And it's just like, I mean, everything that I've researched, it's like I don't like, like you said, cancer. I mean, obviously they know, okay, you got this kind of cancer. They give you this stuff, this dosage, chemotherapy. It's like it's very formulaic, I guess I would say. It's like. Based on what
do you see the level of avoidance of responsibility here? Again, he's leaning even more into it. He's like, and I'm allowing him to do it because I want more context as to where it's coming from and what it is, and then we'll handle it over time. I have to slowly handle it. I have to be careful with how I do it. But you see how there's more and more like people aren't giving me what I need. There's no formula. Maybe I'm too far gone. It's this kind of like egoic narcissism here on his own current situation where he's avoiding change, which is quite common in an offer like this. You'll get people that are avoiding change, but I cannot let him get away with it, because if I let him get away with it, then I have no leverage to close him. I have none. If we allow that frame to exist on a call and I let that frame stay there, then he's going to just cook us. Later on, he'll say, I need to think about it. I'll avoid change. It is just, you will not close this person. So I have to make sure that we set a standard of, hey, we're going to take responsibility. You can be helped and you're willing to be helped. Once we take that and have those knocked off solidly, then we have more leverage to take this where we need to.
I know AA gets good results and stuff like that, but I know people that tell me that they don't like that at all.
Yeah.
I don't see the same kind of formula like ABC leads to XYZ.
Maybe not looking in the right places. I'll explain to you what we do. We have a formula. We break it into a formula. It's very, very logical because we work with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners, people that are busy. So, or if we have a formula, we have it down to a science, essentially. I don't want to make this about us yet. No, I'll explain to you again what we do. We'll get into all of our stuff. Let's stick on you a little more. When did you start to realize your changes needed to happen? I know you mentioned once. So this is interesting. If you were on a live call with me, I'd ask you, why did I let it go? So he just gave me a bunch of stuff that I know I'm going to need to address. But the reason I'm letting it go right now is because, one, I could address some of that in the pitch. Because what he said is, I need something that's formulaic. I need to be formulaic for me, where I understand and where it's broken down piece by piece by piece, etc. So I gently addressed that and said, we do that. Done. Simple as that. We do that. In the pitch, he's either going to believe that we can do it or he's going to believe we can't. There's nothing right now immediately that I have to reframe on the statements he just made. There's signs of things that are going to come up, which do come up in the conversation, and I trigger him to bring these things up later. But for right now, there's nothing to immediately jump on. I don't just reframe things to reframe them for no reason. Like, oh my God, he said something I didn't like, have to reframe it. We want to bide our time and pick our spots, right? So I'm not going to reframe just because he says something I don't like. I reframe something if it's misaligned with him making a buying decision. So in this case, him saying I need something that's formulaic, or I feel like there isn't a formula, that's not misaligned with what we do, because our offer should have a fucking formula if it's a good offer, right? So we're still good to go. It's been going on recently, but when did you start to realize, hey, we got to do something about this? What was that moment for you? So now what I'm doing is I'm creating an urgency trigger, which is why I do this now. What was the moment? The way I run my urgency triggers, and this is a thing we teach in protocols, and I teach this to my people. An urgency trigger is basically what is the time or the moment or who you're doing this for. Why do this now versus do this later? I don't ask it just like, why do you want to do this now? I say, what was the reason that made this important to you now? That's the question I'm asking him. We can start taking, hey, let's make changes seriously.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, man, it's just, I've been married to my wife now for, like 7 years.
He says, I don't know. I'm aware of that.
And I mean, for the last 3, it's just been basically constant fights because I'm drinking. So,
and I know you mentioned you lost your last marriage, that you separated because of that as well.
Yeah.
So, and then I guess you got a little better. So I'm bringing that up because I can create more time around it and more pain around it by saying your last marriage, you lost that. That's 7 years. It seems based on the math. He said 7 years and then 3. Right. We can create more pain around it, more problem, more stress. These things in the marriage, and then the last 3 years have been kind of a spiral.
I'm sorry, you got better at what? I didn't get
so you lost your previous marriage because of the drinking, right? Now you and your wife have been together 7 years, but you mentioned the last 3 years is when things started to really get bad. So I assume there was a period sometime where it wasn't causing havoc and chaos necessarily in the marriage, but the last 3 years got bad. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. What have you done to try to fix this? You mentioned you did a couple things.
Yeah, I mean, I read different books, read different things. I have gone through some different programs. I have a program here at the local center. Done like 2 or 3 of those. How
much were those? What's you paid for recovery work?
Well, these were kind of like,
when I broke this call down in protocols, one of the things that I brought up here, a lot of people didn't understand, and then I brought it up and they're like, fuck, that's really good. So what I'm doing is I'm hoping that he hasn't spent a lot on coaching or a lot on recovery work. I'm hoping he has not, because if he has not, then I can use our program's price, which I would anchor at $12K. We'd sell him a $12K offer. If we can use the $12K price point of the offer, I can use that to actually close him, because it's going to be way more than anything he's ever paid for. So I'm going to use how expensive it is to actually justify how it's different and how it's formulaic in nature, right? Because that was one of the things he was talking about, how it seems like it's all these other things, AA, all that is just all over the place, and it's nothing that's like a formula. Well, we have it down to a science, which means our price is going to reflect that. So the price in itself is going to be a pattern interrupt that's going to get him to invest more in this path and say, oh, wow, I actually do need to take this really seriously.
I don't know, outpatient, but like where you go once a week, or a little group or a support group type things. So one of them was to my church, so that one didn't pay any money at all. The other one, it was I think the total was like $2,500 or something like that. So I mean, $3,000 here, $3,000 here, there. You know what I mean? Not chump change.
Made it so difficult for you to find consistency with taking back control over alcohol and over kind of some of the habits? What was the hard part for you?
Um, I don't know if I'm sure if I'm really sure. I mean, I think one of the things is like the more stress I'm under is kind of what leads me to drinking more.
Mm.
And and so I think sometimes like even with the family dynamic the way it is now, and I miss something, then we get in a fight. I think it's kind of like it's almost like a what do you call it? Like a cycle, or
Yep.
like a perpetual thing. I mean, it's like the fight creates more stress, which then makes me want to drink, and then which leads to more issues and more fights.
Yep.
And so I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's stress at work, stress at home. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not I'm not a doctor or somebody that can like,
Yeah.
diagnose these things or whatever.
Yeah.
But
Of course.
I don't know if I really have an answer for you. I mean, at the end of
Well,
the day,
that is the
obviously,
answer. It's the stress. That's the stress, but that's also not what I'm asking, because that makes. So I asked him, what's the problem? What's holding him back from making change? And he said, the stress is what is causing me to drink. But that is not the trigger that's causing him to not make change. That's the thing that's making him do the action, which we don't like, and he's trying to correct. But the stress in itself is not the thing that is causing him to not be able to make the change, because the stress is what we'd fix maybe in the program potentially, right? But well, we can't really fix the stress even, because stress is part of life. So I'm asking, what's the thing where he's tried and tried and tried and just failed again? Because whatever he's trying, remember this, on any offer that you're on, whatever the prospect is doing to try to fix things, whatever they're doing that's not working, we're going to come into a better job of whatever they're doing, right? So fitness, if someone's like, I try to diet, but I'm not consistent, perfect. The lack of consistency is what we're going to fix. We're going to give you consistency. We're going to give you accountability. Dating offer for a guy. I'm trying to approach girls, but I keep getting rejected, right? Him trying to approach girls, but doing it ineffectively, not the right way, is what we're going to fix. Make sense? So him being stressed, that's not a thing we're going to fix. Life is stressful. He's going to be stressful still after the program. He's going to be stressed. But what we can fix, though, is the things that he's doing to try to not drink after the stress happens. Whatever he's trying is not good enough. That's the answer I need from him. Makes sense. But I'm asking, with those other things that you were doing, going to using the resources the church has, maybe a books here and there, a mentor here and there. Why is it that you kind of rebounded? Why is it that you weren't able to push through and
oh, I
use
didn't.
those tools even during stress?
Oh, I didn't understand the question. I'm sorry.
No issue at all.
I feel like some of the things, like some of the tools I use, like some of the books, I felt like they were kind of just, how do I say it? Just kind of like old rehashed stuff. I didn't feel like it was really stuff that could make a real difference.
Okay.
So, but the church again was more so about kind of camaraderie and kind of, I guess, trying to help us deal with the shame that comes with it. I don't really feel like the church and what we did there was aimed at how can we actually affect change. I think it was more so how can we deal with the negative effects of not changing almost. I don't like how to cope. I don't know how you would say that. The other
taking more of a passive approach versus a proactive results oriented approach.
I guess I would say something like that. And then as far as the program that I did initially see some pretty good results.
I actually love this answer here. I love this answer because all the things he's telling me are things that I can pitch against, right? So if he's saying they didn't do this correctly and I didn't like this in their program or their strategies, all these things he's telling me, I can just pitch against it. And I can say, well, when I break down my pitch, here's exactly what we do that's different than what you experienced before, which is going to hope ideally in an ideal world resell him, right? On starting again and making this commitment.
With that, as far as like, I felt like I had a little bit more willpower to where I didn't drink as many days. So I felt like I was like able to like kind of, okay, like I was probably for like a good 6 months. I was able to just kind of just limit it to the weekends. Now I would still kind of, get blackout drunk, but I had enough willpower to just do it on the weekends.
And then where was the drop off where you dropped off?
I don't know. I can't pinpoint.
I'm still searching for that moment where things didn't work well.
A specific thing or reason. I don't know.
Well, looking back, why do you feel? There's got to be something. It's not just random perchance. What was what happened? Did you fall off? Did it stop? Did you what was
that's what I mean. Well, I stopped the program, but even after stopping the program, I want to say I was probably still able to limit it to weekends for maybe 3 or 4 months. So I don't know why. I don't know what happened to where it started creeping into the rest of the week again. I don't, like I said, I don't really remember. I don't know what happened.
You just slipped back into it?
Yeah.
Without it necessarily there being a trigger that started it?
I mean,
just a gradual decline.
I can't. Yeah, I was drinking just on the weekends, and next thing you know, it's on a Monday, and then next, it's every day again. So
old habits
like,
that hard.
Yeah, exactly.
I got you.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Makes sense. In terms of where you're going with all this, done, because there's just so I stopped there because I feel like he doesn't really know more about his own problem and he's not going to diagnose it deeply. One thing in retrospect, what I could have asked here is going back to why did you stop the programs? Why didn't you continue with them? But then I feel like he would have continued the same answer, which is I didn't like the material and I felt like it was really old school and wasn't necessarily like up-to-date processes, he probably would have just given me the same one. So I don't think that question would have been very valuable. I predict that. That's why I didn't re-ask it again. I thought of it in this moment, but I feel like I got as much information at that point. I didn't like it, but I felt like there's not much more information that I'm going to get right here about why those things weren't working for him. It was kind of like he kind of gave me everything I could see. I tried. I didn't love the programs. I felt like the material or the strategies weren't so up to date, whatever like that, and then things just fell off. Which again, don't like the mindset there. But in terms of closing, which closing psychology is very different than coaching psychology. So as a coach, he can't think like that if he was my coaching client. But from a coaching standpoint, from a sales standpoint, I'm okay with that because I could just pitch against that and tell him how awesome our program is, basically, as long as I pitch it correctly. I can't just pitch some bullshit. I have to pitch it right. But after that, everything should be fine. So that's why I moved on from here, because we have to still go desire and fear stage, aka future pacing and consequence. We have to go there still, and we're not done. And that's going to be some of the most important parts of the call. Two sides. I mean, we can get it all right. We can figure everything out to the best of our ability. And there's that path where you take control of your life and you rebound and you put this mountain, or as Tyler, our founder, likes to call it, like slay the dragon. There's that side, and I want to look at that. But there's also the consequences of not fixing it, the consequences of you staying in this position and not actually like slaying the dragon and moving past this period into that life and that position you want to be with as a man and give that to your family. What does it look like if this continues? What's the downside of this over the next couple of months to years if the path continues the way you are now and you don't leverage the right tools, resources, and steps needed to make change? What's the downside? What's the consequence?
Well, I mean, I think the consequences are obvious.
So we're going consequence stage.
And I don't even want to think about that. I don't even want to go there.
Why don't you want to go there?
Because I've been there.
So when a prospect asks you or tells you, I don't want to go negative, I don't want to be negative, I used to teach like you could just frame it and say, well, we're here to go negative. But instead, I actually like to lean into it. Why are you against going negative? Because almost every time they'll tell you, I don't like to think of what that is. I don't want to think of how bad it would be, or I don't want to think of what would come up for me. I don't want to put my mind in that headspace. I'm like, why? Would that be a bad place to be? They're like, every time they're like, yes. Tell me about it. What would that place be, actually? I want to look at it here. And then we get into it. But from them admitting that the consequence would be terrible, right? So I love it. I just lean into it. I'm like, why not go into it? Because it would be terrible, right? Or because I've started to experience it, which he goes here. He says, because I've been there.
I don't even want to think about that. I don't even want to go there.
Why don't you want to go there?
Because I've been there. I don't, like I said, I lost my first marriage because of drinking.
Do you guys have kids?
With my first wife?
In your first wife, did you have kids?
No.
Now you do.
Now I do, yeah. And so it's like, at this point, it's like...
Sorry to cut you off, Don. Sorry to cut you off. I just want to bring this up. You said you've been there. I don't think you have been there because you didn't have kids in your first marriage. So you didn't lose a marriage where you had a family, where you had I'm a person of faith. I wrestle with faith and wrestle with God many, many times. So my relationship with faith is interesting and a little weird. But I believe that having a family is a sacred responsibility. I don't know if you believe that. I suspect in some way we're aligned on that. If you're...
I do. And even though we didn't have kids, we wanted to have kids. And I mean, that was... The intention was to be together forever. So, I mean, and now I look at it and it's more people to disappoint, and
you see how I got that point across now? He was saying, I've experienced it already. I can't let him go with that because that's watering down my consequence stage. That's watering down my fear state. I can't let him do that. I can't let him tell me I've already experienced it because he's like, oh, I've experienced it and he's okay now. And he's not okay, but I'm alive, right? I'm here. I need to say it's going to get far worse than whatever you experienced before. I always need to find a way to do that. So that's what I do here. I say, you haven't not experienced it because you didn't have kids. Now you have kids, so the consequences are significantly increased, which he complies on and agrees with, and actually leans into it more.
Like I said, I mean, that's why, it's
what's the consequence of disappointing them?
Well, it's. I mean, the more people you let, I mean, it starts with letting myself down, but the more other people I let down, it just compounds. It compounds that disappointment. It compounds that feeling of failure, of you're not good enough. And in some ways that is another trigger to drink more. What's the consequences?
What's the consequences, Don, in their lives, of your kids? And we're gonna move off this in a second, Don. But I want to have this conversation because I wouldn't be doing my job well if I didn't. That's the truth. This is what I do with people. This is why they brought me in to have tough conversations. So you.
Well, I mean, I get it. I mean,
not
you
solving
want to
what are the consequences of that?
Pain so that
100%. Yes.
So that you can, sell your product. I understand that.
So I can help you.
How that works. Well, by selling your product, I understand.
Right.
I know how it goes.
So let's lean into it. So what are the consequences for your family specifically? So you see what happened there? Little battle back and forth. I can't let him win that and just get away with like, you're a sales guy. So I qualified and I say by helping you. That's it. A lot of sales reps will go and have this battle and go into this whole reframe. But just man to man, I think he gets the whole game. I think he understands sales, but he's not necessarily crashing the entire call. He's answering my questions still. So I don't need to be extra witty and exert extra energy to try to handle it, which again, a lot of sales reps will do. They put in the cool highlight on YouTube or like Instagram. I don't need to do that here. It's not necessary. All I do is I'm like, yeah, selling you is helping you. That's the reason why. And he says, you can sell your product. I'm like, yeah, so I can help you make change. You do that by selling your product. Yes. Correct. So let's continue. And he plays ball. Now, if he didn't, and if he avoided it and fought me on it, then we'd have to have a conversation, and then we'd have the little highlight reel, right? But I don't need to do that. It's unnecessary. The lowest level of energy I can expend, I'm good to go. So here's what we're asking now of seeing that beyond just you drinking more, because that's all you, but this isn't about you. This is about them. What I'm doing is I'm also taking the responsibility of failure and I'm moving it away from just him on putting the cost of that failure, I should say, onto his family, which is huge and again stretches pain because it's not him now. He's letting other people around him down. What are the consequences to them seeing this?
Well, I mean, the consequences are some of the things they've already experienced, meaning they, not having a dad to show up to events that are important to them and help celebrate, their wins. I hate to think about it, but having a dad that they're ashamed of sometimes.
How old are your kids?
10, 8, and 5.
They're in a very foundational stage of life as well, where what they see from you over the next 5 to 10 years, depending on 5 to 10 to 15 years, seriously impacts the way that they relate to the world, the way that they value themselves, the way that they relate to relationships, the way that they relate to friendships. It has a massive impact. Do you agree with that? Do you see that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's heavy. It's real shit. Are you okay? You know that voice we talked about earlier, that side of you, right? That's like, is it even possible? That side of you that's like, hey, maybe I. What I'm doing now is I'm trying to get him to ultimately take responsibility for not letting that happen, right? And if I can get him to take responsibility here with this question, which he kind of evades, and I have to challenge him on it. If I get him to take responsibility on this here in this moment, then we have more leverage to close him again. I need him into a state of responsibility. Because without that responsibility, it's just so much harder to close people. You have to get people taking responsibility over their own future, over their own outcomes. Can't beat this. That version of you that I know is still there, that side of you wants this other reality to come true. The reality that you've already tasted. I don't think you fully experienced it because your kids are still very young. I talk to guys who they got kids that are 25, 40, 50. They've lost relationships with family members. Like, you don't know how bad it gets. You don't know because you haven't experienced it yet. You have younger kids, right? So there's a bunch of hope, a whole bunch of hope. Given this other side that we don't want to happen, is it helpful for you to listen to that voice and to follow that voice? It's like, it can't be done. Maybe I can't be helped. Maybe it's too difficult. Is that helping your family, listening to that voice?
I mean, it's like, you've heard the term of like ignorance is bliss. I mean, it's like sometimes I feel like it is, as opposed to, listening to the voice that has the hope and, okay, we have the hope and we're going to do something else. And then now the hope turns to despair because that doesn't work. And then you try something else and the whole while you're disappointing yourself and disappointing other people. It's like, sometimes I feel like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know which one's hurting them worse sometimes.
Which one's hurting who worse?
My kids, not the family, as you said.
Okay, so fast forward to a conversation in 10 years with your 25-year-old child where you have not actually tackled this and you haven't slayed that. Do you see how he evades the answer? He says, I don't know which one, which is a cop-out answer because he does know. So instead of me letting it go or just giving him the answer, which I can't do, I need to wrestle with it. I need to give him a crossroads. Again, look at the pattern of crossroads, giving pathways. I'm forcing the prospect to pick a side. I'm forcing them to pick who they choose to be on this day. Who are they going to be? And the more of those crossroads I can get them to pick that they stay consistent with, and that they say, I'm going to be this person, the higher leverage I have to close them. Again, common principle, repeating over and over again.
Hurting them worse sometimes.
Which one's hurting who worse?
My kids, not the family, as you said.
Okay, so fast forward to a conversation in 10 years with your 25-year-old child where you have not actually tackled this and you haven't slayed that dragon, overcome this mountain. Fast forward to that. Which side's hurting? I won't assign a gender. I don't know. I don't need to know boy or girl, whoever it is. Is that which side is hurting them worse at that point? The ignorance is bliss side, or you just it's okay. I'll just deal with who I am right now and not overcome this, or the side that went through pain, frustration, and quite a bit of misery and challenges and frustration and setbacks, but to be that man who can give the best of himself to your child at 25. Which side's worse for them?
I guess the side that doesn't have the hope and doesn't at least try to improve or try to be sober.
What's the other side look like? You get it all right, because there's a side to that. One thing that I would have wanted to do here in retrospect, because I always want to critique everything. I would have doubled down with. I should have doubled down with another question and said, "And are you okay settling being that person right now? Are you okay settling with that mindset and that energy and leaning into that, or are you going to move on from it?" I would have done that again. I didn't do it in the moment because I felt I would just get too much resistance still on it. But because I felt like I won this now. I did feel that alive. But retrospect, looking back, maybe I could lean into it again. But still, very good stuff. See how we won this battle now? We won this frame, and now we're on the right track, and now he's taken somewhat responsibility over this position. You sure got the emails from us on when you saw some of the stories. I mean, Tyler's I think biggest example of this. The other side, you get it right. We do what we need to do to get you to that place where you have freedom, where you have that life flexibility to operate on your own terms without being bound to the bottle, without being bound to the compulsions, without being bound to the habits. What's that doing for you personally? Beyond the label of I'm free, beyond just that label, what does it actually do for you day to day? What does life look like?
Well, the first thing, I know the first thing that happened is the relationship with my wife would be a lot better. We wouldn't be fighting about my drinking all the time. So, that would definitely be a load off pressure. I'd definitely be able to attend my kids' events and enjoy those with them and be present for them.
Can we go back to the thing with your wife for a second? You said you wouldn't be fighting. What would you replace that with? What would you guys do? What would you engage in? See how he gives me a thing that would be better? He's like, the relationship with my wife would be better. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask him to make it real and tangible by giving me details and information on it. Because I want it, again, to be real. When you're going into desire stage, you're going into fear stage. Again, future-facing consequences, what they call it in the general sales space and protocols. We call it future, and we call it desire and fear. So what I want to do is I want to get him to paint a picture around what that future reality looks like, so it's tangible and we can taste it, he can feel it. Kind of in your relationship, day-to-day activities, outside of some intimacy. I don't need to hear all that. Was it beyond that? What would it be?
No, at this point, man, I don't even know. Like I said, the last 3 years have been like solid fighting.
Imagine it wasn't there. Imagine it wasn't there. Imagine you guys had healed and it wasn't there, and you and her are cool as a cucumber. There's no fighting now. What would you do? What would you engage in?
Wow. Just, I guess, the stuff that normal couples engage in, like take out to dinner and go to the movies and
beautiful
and maybe take some trips, like a little, because we live in Florida, so
okay.
and take a weekend cruise to the Bahamas, leave the kids with grandma and grandpa, just like court each other again, like start over. You know what I mean?
Yeah, beautiful. What would it feel like? What would it feel like doing that? And just kind of reinvigorating that in a relationship, specifically in your relationship, specifically because you had overcome these battles and the habits that you've been involved in, or that you've been dealing with the drinking. What would that feel like to you? Just the emotion.
I know it would be a huge weight.
What I'm doing now is I'm assigning emotion to the practical reality that he gave me. So he said reality would be X, and I'm saying let's assign an emotion to that X so that it makes it more tangible, more real. He can feel it, he can see it, he can experience it live with me on the call, and thus his buying decision is going to be anchored to this conversation we're having here.
Off my shoulders. It would be. You said free before, and I definitely would feel free. Just reinvigorated. You said it's like like a new start, just a whole new life. Really, it would feel awesome. I feel light, like I said, like a weight off my shoulders. Like that's the only kind of thing I can think of. Just
beautiful,
light.
Yeah. Would that feeling trickle down to the kids as well? You think to your children, they would feel the energy? Yeah,
absolutely. It's like there's a cloud over the house right now. Like I said, we've been steady fighting for 3 years, and we usually don't do it in front of them. But the tension is always there.
What do you think your kids would see just from their parents? Like, what's their perception of it all if you rebound? I'm leaning even more into it because he's been in such a state of avoiding responsibility through this call. I'm leaning more into creating responsibility, or not just responsibility, but creating a vision around that future, because there's more work I need to do in discovery. This actually is a very long discovery compared to what I normally do. Normally my discovery is finished in 25 minutes almost every time, but in this case my discovery is longer. It's 36 minutes. Normally I would take around 5 to 8 minutes to pitch. Generally, that's how long my pitches take, which would leave me, we're doing some quick math here, which would leave me around 15 minutes left for our call, right? But yeah, so discovery is important, very important. It establishes frames, it establishes responsibility, establishes the context and the reason for why we should do this now versus putting it off till later. To control like this, what would they see from mom and dad?
Sounds corny, but love. Just people that love each other, care for each other, respect each other.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's what it'll be.
Incredible. I'm gonna ask you this kind of final question, Don, and I ask this to all my people because it's the determining question for if I pitch you, and if I say, hey, let's look at doing this work together. Do you feel like you're ready to commit to making changes and doing things correct and saying, I'm going to try to make changes. I'm going to try again for the 5th time, for the 6th time, for the 10th time, whatever time it takes? Are you willing and wanting to make those changes happen for yourself so your family and by extension, you can have a better future and a better life? Because I need a yes to that before I pitch you anything and tell you how we can help you.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you got to buy our shit. I'm not telling you that, but I'm going to pitch you and see if we can help you. But I need to know that you're at least willing to jump in for yourself.
I mean, that part of me is.
Okay. If the last, I think we've been here for like 30 minutes, if the last 30 minutes are an indicator, then I think that's the side of you that I'm speaking to right now. And that's the side of you that I'm going to pitch to. Okay. The other side's going to, maybe he may creep up and give me some problems at the end and freak out a little bit, but it's okay. I'm going to talk to him too. Well, let me break down how I can help you and what it looks like in terms of our process and our steps. Tell me if it feels good, if it aligns, and then I'll break down the price and investment and all that, and we'll see if we can work something out and if we get you started. And if not, we look at that too. No worries. There we go. And it is there. So that is me running a full stack, all my recommendations. There's me running a full stack discovery. Hopefully it made sense. Hopefully there was a lot that you took from this in terms of my process, in terms of how I do things, in terms of how I sell. I think there's a lot of underlying psychology that goes into this, and the way we sell in protocols, the way I teach my protocols people to sell is very much based on frames. It's very much based on setting expectations, setting standards, and allowing the prospect to have a dialogue, a conversation around responsibility. Because without that dialogue, without that responsibility framing being created, it's so much more difficult to sell. And we never ever want to run into a situation or a position where we're pulling teeth on a call. It just doesn't help you. It kills your commissions and makes you less money. Okay, hopefully this made sense. And I'll see you on the next one. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep going and making money.